So at a time when religion has got little or no impact in especially the European working class, what are we doing? We're going to have a whole weekend school discussing it. And amongst one of the suggestions, and I hope it's not serious about it, is we would take out the question about religion. Well, far from you getting a bigger party, you're going to get a weird party if you start doing things like that. You've got to set in socialist principles. You can't just hide them away in order to become a bigger party. Because number one, it won't happen. And number two, if it did, it wouldn't be a socialist party. So I'm extremely disappointed with the tenure of discussion here, that somehow or other, the thing that's holding them back, the growth of socialism, is religion and our attitude towards it.
Howard, do you want to say that?
Well, just to say that I don't think anyone suggested that what's holding the Socialist Party back is anything to do with...
That's what William Commons suggested. That's why they were formed.
Yeah. But I don't think any of us here would suggest that. I mean, you know, the topic for this weekend is socialism and religion. I mean, it doesn't follow from that you know, this is the sort of, you know, the key or a major topic in party discussion. It's just a thing, it's just a topic which, you know, which clearly the people who've come here think is worth talking about. I mean, you know, there's a church in Swansea which is now a Chinese restaurant as well. I mean, you know, these things happen. You know, the church is losing out quite dramatically. The traditional church, anyway, Catholic or Protestant as it may be. And the whole point is people's beliefs in religion are very insubstantial these days. They are sort of very thin and, you know, as Andy pointed out, sort of easily collapse. And you know, for us to sort of set such enormous store by that, when it, you know, by what people say they believe in, when it comes to you know, when it comes to talking to them about, you know, socialism, is you know, just seems sort of disproportionate.
Eleanor?
Yeah, in my opinion, religion actually will be always a false notion, because it's always looking outside of human nature, like outside of human. Like it could be like Muhammad, or it could be Jesus Christ, or somehow God, which is kind of outside, and they encourage other human beings to try to follow them and look outside themselves. But religion would never encourage people looking into oneself, because a normal human being would find fulfillment by looking inside and finding, let's say, treasures like kindness, being like kind and loving and sharing and generous, and whatever principles we might be encouraging in society, like in the Socialist Party. So religion will never try to turn their followers inside into themselves, but try always to place their attention outside of themselves, because they keep them in position of chasing and being not satisfied and seeking for a second opinion. So, and I could agree with Socialist Party saying that religion is not in our not our agenda, and it should not be accepted as a point of view here. So, but saying about spirituality, but I mean, of course, I don't want to mix up here the terms and definitions, and could be spirituality and socialism find themselves as a source of fulfillment, bringing good qualities, humanity out of the world, into the world, from ourselves into the world, and developing fair principles.
Howard?
No, if what you're saying is spirituality isn't synonymous with religious belief, yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
No, it was Andy, then Sandy.
I just wanted to come back at Dick, actually, in a positive sense, and also to possibly open a little bit of debate with Howard. I don't want to open up a can of worms here, but I don't hold any store or I don't have any truck with the idea of allowing religionists in as members of the party, right? we all, I'm a recovering Catholic, yeah? Right? And there's a few people around who might be like that, alright? And it takes a lot, and you can't get it out of your head, right? And so you read like Marx, you read Engels, you read like Robert Tressel, you read you read whatever you read, right? Which is kind of, you know, rational, enlightened, you know, enlightenment thought, right? But still, there is some kind of residue in your head that has infected you, all right? Now, this party, okay, there's only one of them, okay? There's lots of parties that call themselves socialists. And Ron Cook used to say to me, he said, it's a terrible bloody party, but it's the only one. It's the only one. And we do not, and this is where we need to also, I think, hold on to our principle about the dialectic. We're not a faith. You know, it's a dialectical party as well. And I was in the pub earlier on trying to explain to Eileen about the dialectic. I said it's very, very simple. I said you've got a thesis, that's an idea. You've got an antithesis, that's the idea against it. And then you've got a synthesis, and that's what happens afterwards. And then it all starts again, you know? This party is a party that opposes religion. And we can analyse the reasons why people feel the need to have these superstitions, but ultimately we are material or materialist scientists who understand and interrogate the world as it exists, as it moves forward, and we seek to engage with that world in order to make it better in the future.
Sandy?
I want to agree with Dick about what he was saying about the position of religion, except to say, of course, that the same isn't true of Islam. Islam is the growing thing as far as religions are concerned, or it's certainly relatively thriving. So presumably you would have to still deal with that, and as it's related to the other two religions that most of us will know about, Judaism and Christianity, you can't sort of completely junk these things as relevant issues, but it is certainly true that the general tenor of things within religion has been retreat for the past century and more. You know, and how to accommodate to the fact that they've got to retreat socially, and the shifts and turns they've got up to in order to try and keep as good a position as they can. So far as whether we should be here talking about this is concerned, well, you see, I don't know whether we would have got if we'd had a talk about recent economic developments, a whole series on recent economic developments. Where now with the credit crunch and all this sort of thing, I can tell you I'm suffering personally from the credit crunch at the moment, but you know what I hear about all that. Would we have got as many people, more people, or you know the same number of people to come? It's a subject which for some reason has a kind of enduring interest, and it does enable you to talk about other things. That's the point. You start off with a topic like religion, you've just about got to go into other subjects. You know, it's all very material, all this. So, you know, whilst it's handy to make a distinction in conversation between needs that are directly material, like you need to have your dinner at 6:30 or whatever, and needs which aren't so directly material, like you know, you need a bit of love shown to you every so often. It's not as if they were inhabiting two separate worlds, or that they were that, you know, totally distinct from one another. It's material beings that are feeling all this and thinking and what have you. So I think a bit more clarity on these points might help. So far as the figures that were quoted, now, if my memory serves me correctly, it was even worse than that, Howard. Robin Cox made the statement that, according to some survey or other,